Hey everyone, I just wanted to let you know here on the Cinderella Slippers podcast that the reason why I didn't record an entire bracketology or any of that like I promised was because around Tuesday my sister was sick for the last 2 weeks and then I caught her cold. And that's why I was and still was not able to cover most, if not all, of the NCAA tournament. But today's episode is going to be very short, very, very brief. I wanted to make it short and brief because I am not feeling that great, and I still feel it at times. I don't feel it at times, but yeah, it's been was a long spring break. Let me say that. Very pretty long. Don't want to get into the details of it, which I don't, because we got a March Madness to focus on, and as a matter of fact, I am going to feel better soon. Today, I even had to take a break from classes. So far in the NCAA tournament, there's only 4 brackets left as of 9:22 Eastern Standard Time here in Indiana, and this has just been crazy NCAA tournament to say the least. Duquenne was the big shocker, along with the biggest one of them all being Oakland. How Calipari is able to actually put a pretty crappy team together is beyond me. Beyond me. We have a new superstar now in Oakland. And it's not. It's pretty similar to, let me just see, Dallas Braden. You have Dallas Braden, and then you got Jack Goldkey, trying to learn his name. I saw him a little bit during the games this year, and I thought he was a terrible shooter until this tournament. He even made a full court shot. This guy is unbelievable. And now he just came out of nowhere and started shooting in buckets. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to see that because it was nuts to see Oakland get a hold of a really bad Kentucky team. They should not have been in the tournament. I think it's time for Calipari to go, personally. But yeah, that right there, to me, is kind of like the icing on the cake. I'm probably not going to pick Purdue or Kentucky in my bracket. Speaking of Purdue, they're leading 50-33 in the second quarter. But I've also had kind of a long week because of the fact that my brackets were not perfect. They're all not perfect. And we thought we'd get one at the end of last night that would be. Every single bracket, including in women's, is busted. Or not busted, but more not perfect. There's not one bracket that's busted so far. My definition of busted is busted should be if your team loses. I only had one that busted, and that was the BYU one. And safe to say Duquesne's a way better team, but they'll lose to Illinois, who I had in about 5 of my, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe 10 of my 50 brackets. I don't know legitimately how many I filled out. I think it's anywhere between 52 and 60. But I was able to fill out the brackets, and I was going to come back on here and do it, and then I got sick. And now I am still fighting off this cold. It's been hot one week, cold the next, but I was able to watch the tournament. It's pretty exciting. Today we had some big wins. Big win by Yale. Big win by the Bulldogs. They are an unbelievable team. We knew they would be hungry going into the tournament. That late second buzzer beater against Brown was the icing on the cake of what would be their iconic season. And the Ivies are back in the tournament again. But did you see the video last year where Princeton won the NCAA or won their games in the NCAA tournament? They made it to the Elite Eight. This year, I can see Princeton making it all the way, or not Princeton, but Yale making it all the way, maybe to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight. Because, as I said, this Yale squad, this whole year, has been full of triumphs and tragedies and very close finishes. So I wasn't shocked that they beat Auburn. I'm shocked Auburn lost to Yale. I picked Auburn in some of my brackets. And it's beyond just, it was a very close game. It was a very hard fought battle. Last night's game against Kentucky and Oakland was very hard and battled as well. It reminded me a lot of that, except Oakland came up late and they had one of, if not the best shooters of them all. And Tominga couldn't get it done against Texas A&M today. I'll get into that in a minute. But Nebraska and Oakland were very similar shooting-wise. But very, very similar to them is Yale. And yeah, if you are a college basketball nut, I bet your brackets are already busted too. As I said, there's only 4. But now on to my point about Nebraska and Texas A&M. I thought, to me, that was a very sloppy game by Nebraska. I didn't think Nebraska showed their full potential today. And I thought to myself, you know, this Nebraska squad was kind of overhyped. But I was able to really find out and dissect from everything that this squad was good in their Big Ten race. And yeah, tonight we're hoping that not only, I don't want Purdue to win this one, but unfortunately they will. And hopefully it's a second round exit to Nevada or TCU, which play later tonight. If Utah State wins, I have them upsetting Purdue. But again, as I said, the brackets are, the whole thing this year was a really, really big upset city, upset tundra, I call it. But if TCU wins, I have Utah State. But I am certain that with the men's basketball tournament, I feel like the brackets are just very much on the lines of really being very complicated to predict. Every year they're very complicated to predict. But this year the March really is showing its madness. And we thought to ourselves that this would be our year. Maybe could be our year to get a bracket sometime soon. I'm not as distraught as I was, but don't be distraught by the bracket. It's very much on luck, and it really is like the lottery, as my mother would kept on saying to me today. But yeah, sorry, I don't have much to talk about except for the fact that Illinois made history with a triple-double. And not only that, but there's all sorts of storylines. Sorry, I am not feeling that great. But I'm trying my best to talk about college basketball in our next episode, which will be aired as part 2. I will be talking about Division III and Division II basketball. And we have to, first of all, give a shout out. Of course, maybe I might do that right now. Division III basketball was really on the lines of really, it was dominant. And as I said all week, it was dominant from the end and from the beginning. The national champions were trying. As congratulations to them. I wanted to make an episode about them last week, but I never got to it. Hamden and Sydney was the team that they faced, and Shrine won, and this was several days ago, wasn't it? That's what I thought. I knew this tournament was several days ago in Division III Women's. That tournament was very exciting, especially towards the end. And NYU was able to not only snag the victory, I think this was on Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, but they were able to win the national championship against Smith by the final score of 51-41 and cap off what was an amazing season. It was no shocker that NYU was going to win that tournament. It was no shocker that they were going to be potential favorites. Maybe in this potential in the future to get it and keep this run going. I loved NYU this year. I loved them. And they were a spectacular team from start to finish. The Violets were unbelievable. And in terms of that, Division III and Division III men's and women's were pretty exciting, to say the least. Very close scores for the finals. And, of course, they really put it all on the line and did a great job other than that. Feel bad for Hope College, though. It's the last year I will be possibly following them. But the Cinderella Slippers podcast, as I said, will be moving towards baseball at the end of the March Madness tournament. So hopefully we can cover Division III, Division II, Division I baseball tournaments throughout the season. I will not be giving a preview on that until after the day of the solar eclipse on April 9th, which is going to be a really jam-packed day, possibly, because of the fact that, speaking of the solar eclipse, we'll do an eclipse live stream on Instagram. It will be a really short yet very exciting event to watch. So let me give you an update on this. Grambling just shot a 3 and Purdue is leading 54-36, but with 11:21 left in the second quarter. And we will see what is going to happen here, as Purdue is 7 of 11 from 3, along with Grambling's 3 of 11 as well. Purdue's trying to put up a fight and avoid the upset. They gotta speak at this as an IU fan. They don't need the upset. They don't need it. And I would love for them to, because we love seeing Purdue suffer. But this year, if Purdue can get the monkey off their back and play close games and do the same thing that Virginia did in 2019 after their loss against UMBC, it would be really exciting to see that and really just fun to watch, but at the same time it'd be like very, very devastating for me as a Hoosiers fan. And in Phoenix, they're going to welcome them, hopefully not with open arms, but this UConn squad to me has a lot of potential to win the national championship. A lot of potential. This team is so solid from head to toe. It's unreal how they played against Stetson, and they are a terrible team. But I love the Hatters. I love their fans, and I love how hats are made. Love hats in general. A school called the Stetson Hatters almost seems like a joke, but I had them on 2 of my brackets. I am going to say it. This UConn team is so good, and they are so fresh, and they are so great offensively. This team has potential to win a national championship, and they're possibly my favorites at this point to win it if if Purdue can't get it done, which I don't think they will. I think we're rooting for UConn here in Indiana, but most of us, not only most of us, but all of us are more excited for the solar eclipse than the NCAA tournament, especially if you're in Bloomington and Terre Haute. You are very much so like, can we please get this men's tournament done? However, in the women's side of things, Notre Dame and IU are in the NCAA tournament, but not a lot of people may watch those matchups. More so, one of them could be upset tomorrow, and that team could be IU. Fairfield is so good from deep, and they are a 3-point monster. And if they beat IU, what a way to go 3 years in a row, or 5 years in a row, including 2019-20, where we could have made the tournament, could have won, where we made the tournament, could have won the tournament, and we never did. And we are so underwhelmingly, very underwhelmingly strict on much so the appearance of our team compared to teams like Iowa and Nebraska, who the media are like, yeah, we're going to go to them for national champs. It's very discouraging to see Indiana women's not get as much coverage like it has been the last maybe 5 years. We are the underdogs of the Big Ten, and we are very strict on how we are treated, and we know we're treated bad, and we know we're treated horrible by the media, and we know that the media is not going to give us a lot of grace, especially if we play, and we're likely to beat a team like Oklahoma or Florida Gulf Coast, and then play a team like South Carolina and get trumped by them literally 30. It might be, I hate to say this, but it might be at 99, maybe 105 to 60 lost. No one wants us. And as I said, this team is good. Team is better in ways than it was last year, especially from the perimeter. But we have a lot of trouble in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. And it's going to be a real show to see whether or not IU can and will obtain past the Elite Eight. Past it. We can't go far, but if we do go far, how far are we going to go? That's how it is at IU. It's how far are we going to go to win an NCAA tournament for the first time ever. And I think that could happen. Just you wait for Caitlin Clark to leave. Once Caitlin Clark leaves, we're set and ready to go. We are ready to go for the rest of this experience, which will be full of national champions. And yes, believe it or not, I think they said Mackenzie Holmes is going to stay another year, and Sydney Parrish is also going to stay another year. So I'm really, at this point, as I said, the two big contenders in the Big Ten after Iowa leaves are just IU and Nebraska. But just you wait. Next year, and maybe, if we're lucky this year, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If we could beat the girls of South Carolina, I will literally scream and cry and yell, because that is just a huge accomplishment. We'll cry. If we win it all, we'll cry as Hoosier fans. Notre Dame has already seen success. We have not. We will be the third team in the state. Also, USI. How did they get snubbed from the tournament? I'm dead serious. How did USI get snubbed from the tournament? That's beyond me. They won their title, and unfortunately, they, like in the case of San Francisco, it's just, oh my gosh. It was just very heartbreaking to see them not in this tournament. And they're in the NIT playing on Monday. What a shame. That team was so good. Yeah, that team was so good. And they didn't deserve to not go out like this. And yeah. Oh, sorry, I was checking Twitter. In terms of the Purdue game, now Zach Edey just shot a 2-point basket. And Grambling State is up 60, or no, I meant Purdue. I'm just kidding. Purdue is up 63 to 43, so they're up by 20 against Grambling with 7:02 left in the second. And yeah, we'll have to try and see what can happen here with Purdue in the tournament. But back again to the USI topic and to IU women's basketball. I do think legitimately that this whole season was made up for a team like Iowa or Nebraska to win the Big Ten, and not just win the Big Ten, but also win the tournament. And Iowa, to me, are still my favorites, but they are not going to beat a team like UConn or South Carolina. You just cannot underestimate. Now, Kayla Clark is Michael Jordan, basically, of women's basketball, as I've said on the podcast time after time again. She's just breaking records and breaking scores, and she is just an unbelievable player. Unbelievable player. And we get she is, but I am going to say Caitlin Clark, who I call her now, because Caitlin Clark is the most overhyped women's basketball player of all time. And I like her playing style. She's a great player. But gosh, is she something to deal with or what? It's just crazy that now there's this documentary coming out. She is basically the Travis Kelce of the world in terms of women's basketball and where it's headed. The WNBA is going to not see a lot of viewership, though. It's still going to be marginalized. Women's basketball is marginalized, extremely marginalized, and will always be. And I think some girls accept it more than others. Some will accept it for multiple reasons, and others won't. And I'm just going to say that if I had to pick a national champion, as all my brackets are basically gone and not perfect, I would say Iowa and South Carolina is my favorite, but I personally like South Carolina and UConn to rematch back in 2022. And I could see UConn winning the first national championship in the school's history. Or not school's history now, I just meant in the school's history in the last 10 years or 5 years. They have not won one since 2017. And this, I think, could be the year that UConn does it because they had a 4.1% on their bracket pool. And, of course, it's important to see women's sports grow and everything, but women's basketball is always going to be a major drawback to the American audience because of the stereotypes that come along with it. And yes, we could support women in sports media and women in sports as a whole, but again, the real reason why this tournament is going to be so popular, or more popular than the men's, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch the men's final compared to the women's final, especially considering who could be in the mix. Could it be South Carolina? Could it be LSU? Could it be Iowa? Could it be USC? Could it be UCLA? Those are the major teams that are going to really, especially Caitlin Clark, are really going to get a lot of the viewership. And it could be maybe a 15 million, 20 million view national championship. I'm predicting right now that if Iowa and LSU play in the NCAA tournament, I have LSU beating Iowa for one reason, because they are the only team that's legitimately good enough out of conference to beat Iowa besides Kansas State. They are so good with their team this year. Utilize Angel Reese, get her to put her hand over her face, and get her to absolutely tear apart Caitlin Clark like they did last year. But Iowa's out for revenge, so it's going to be a very close game. But I expect it to be about 15, maybe 20 million viewers. The last time that has ever happened in major sports with over 20 million viewers was the Super Bowl. I mean, it probably was here in the world, but in America, that's the only one of the largest events that people watch. Almost the whole country watches that Super Bowl. And from every TV, on every angle, on every site, everybody is watching it. Women's basketball is not going to get there, at least for the next maybe 5 years. I'm not saying 200 million viewers or 300 million viewers is going to be good for them. I'm not saying that. This will not be the most viewed television event, but it will be the most viewed in terms of women's sports. And I think the largest in ESPN revenue and pricing, because this game's an Elite Eight game. If they play this, they're going to be in the Elite Eight. Believe it or not, I have Iowa maybe winning that, but LSU could rip them and tear them apart again. But Iowa's on a quest to get one championship for Caitlin Clark. Not 20, not 30, just one. And that's fine. Because more players couldn't do it in a lifetime. Kelsey Plum. Here's the thing about Kelsey Plum and Jackie Stiles. They both didn't get this much press. I've never seen this much press on a women's basketball player in my entire life. And this is to beyond even women's sports in my entire life. If we can have the same viewership ratings for other women out there in the world, for other women's events, the view doesn't even get that many views compared to the women's basketball. So it goes to show you what kind of woman every person around the world is supporting. And believe it or not, it's for me to say that I'm not a judge on how women's basketball can be I'm a judge on how we can see this tournament in the future. But yes, Indiana could win the national championship in 3 years, by the next 3 years. And I see that being after Caitlin Clark leaves. But will Terry Morin continue this pressure? As for UCLA, they're legit national championship contenders, and they could beat Iowa any day of the week. But Iowa could beat them too. So the scoring update for Purdue and Grambling State, it is 69-45 Purdue with 4:53 left, and Grambling is going with the free throws. In terms of other games, it looks like Alabama beating the living crap out of Charleston. Looks like 80-58. And then the Longwood game is starting on TNT against Houston. And Wisconsin, the 5 seed, will play the 12 seed James Madison. And in other games on the calendar, the last one is TCU and Utah State at 10:25. And then we got one more game. It'll happen at 10:30 with Grand Canyon and TCU, not TCU, but Grand Canyon and St. Mary's. So, yeah, sorry I got that wrong. I've been scrolling through a lot of stuff and really checking on updates throughout the tournament. But today, given the fact that I've been a little bit sick, it's very fitting that I actually got that done, and I'm really happy I've got this podcast done. For the other episodes, yes, we are going to do this every Friday. I thought to myself that doing the Tuesday, Thursday newsletter thing was a lot, and I lost a bunch of subscribers, almost got hacked on Substack, but I was actually able to delete the initial Substack newsletter, which I should not have done, but that was because of the fact that I lost so many subscribers in a few weeks, and so we're moving directly towards LinkedIn, and a lot of those articles that were on there are also going to be on LinkedIn as well. So we plan to post on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but given the tournament, it could be weekly. And since I was sick, I am now going to post them regularly on Tuesdays and Thursdays, especially throughout the tournament. It could be daily, could be weekly. But the tournament is the tournament, and a lot of craziness can happen with the tournament. It looks like Purdue is going to actually beat Grambling. 74-48 is the score right now with 2:49 left in the second quarter, and it looks like Purdue is going to run away with the victory. It doesn't look like there's going to be any stoppage here. Morris for 3, off the clink, rebound by Gillis, gives it back to Morris for the 3 again, no good. Here's the rebound once again, and Grambling now has it. So yeah, that actually, I might stay on here for a little bit for the Purdue Grambling ending, but I really wanted to make this short. I am sorry for not posting during the bracketology portion of this podcast. Again, really busy again, and not feeling that great. But actually, that game's going to be on a timeout. There's already a commercial for it. Purdue, I think, will run away with the victory, so we'll just assume that Purdue won the game, and they're going to move on to the second round against the winner of Utah State in that game that's happening during then. Utah State and TCU. And so thank you all so much for listening. This is Braden Bear. Have a great night. And again, we'll be live for more tournament coverage as it comes down to the weekly or daily mantra of the NCAA tournament, as we have just this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, and then the Sweet 16 on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday. Then Friday is going to be an off day, especially for the men's and women's. And then the Saturday and Sunday will be filled with the Elite 8. And then that Monday will be the last day for the Elite 8 for the women's. They run on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday schedule. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then after the tournament is said and done, we will talk about baseball for the rest of the tournament and for the rest of the Cinderella Slippers podcast, as we try not to restrict ourselves to just basketball. We're also a baseball channel as well. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening. This is Braden Bear. Have a good night and enjoy the tournament safely.